Welcome back to K-Chat with me, your host, Kayla Morales. We chat all things from love to life to business, spirituality, health and wellness, and everything in between. This is a place for growth and meaningful connection, and I'm so excited to share this episode with you all, so let's get to chatting. So, let me just sip my coffee real quick. Whew. I am so excited for this episode. I am talking with transformational mindset coach Kelly Gallo. And it is a juicy conversation. I keep it juicy. Anyway, so yeah, we talk about shadow work, manifestation, and just living your best life. It's a great conversation. We get into some tangents. She helped me unlock the meaning to one of my dreams. So yeah, I mean, if you have ever heard of shadow work or ever have been curious about what shadow work means, this is a great episode for you. Just to learn a little bit more about what it means, how to actually do shadow work or do the work, as some people call it. So yeah, I think it's very interesting, and really, even if you're not interested in shadow work and you're interested in manifestation, shadow work really goes hand in hand with manifestation, because you can't really manifest the things you want without reprogramming and retraining your mind to believe that you can actually access those things, right? So when you want to get into an energetic vibration of what you're trying to manifest, it's important to have done that shadow work so that you can get in that vibration of receiving, right? So it's a very interesting conversation, and I'm really excited to share it with you guys. I highly suggest, but I'm a little biased, but if you're loving this episode, or even if you're not loving this episode, or if it provoked any thought in your mind, like, reach out to me, let me know, let's continue the conversation. That is definitely one thing that's really important to me, is to make sure that this is a space where we're connecting and we have the ability to share our perspectives and ideas with one another so that we can elevate and help each other grow. That's what I'm really passionate about. That's why I started the podcast. That's why I'm continuing with the podcast, because I love connecting with the guests, but I want to connect with you guys too. So if this is an episode that resonates with you, hit me up. Let me know what you're thinking. I want to continue talking about it. This stuff is so fascinating to me, and it's interesting to hear different perspectives. Even if you don't believe in it or you think something else, let me know. I'd love to hear about it. So yeah, hopefully it resonates. If not, leave what doesn't, take what you can from the conversation. That's how I enter anything, and that's my wish for you all. And yeah, I'm trying to think what else. I wanted to mention that I'm still working on how my intros are going, and so they might be changing here and there. I appreciate all you day ones, so you'll see the progression more than maybe other people might, but thank you for being along this journey with me. And if it does resonate, if you like this episode, again, leave a comment on YouTube, subscribe, share with a friend. And if you listen to it on Apple, rate and review. I really appreciate that. It helps the podcast grow. And yeah, see you on the other side. Bye, guys. Today's episode, we are chatting with the lovely Kelly Gallo. She is a transformational mindset coach, and in this juicy conversation, we are going to break down shadow work, manifestation, and becoming your best self. So let's welcome Kelly to the podcast.
Wow, I love that. That was so cool. I feel like I need like an intro song, like walk in, like
yeah. Pew, 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 pew. It's like, I love that. Oh my gosh, yeah. So one day I'm gonna get like a soundboarder that I'll just like pew pew pew. You know those little rock launcher things. Yes. All right, it's on the list. So, thanks again for doing this. I'm very excited. I just want to jump into and get your breakdown of how you found yourself on this journey. How did this work begin for you?
Yeah, I mean, like, what a full question. There's so much in there. It's actually,
tell me all.
Tell me all of it. How much time do you have? It's so funny. I actually had someone reach out to me recently and say like, hey, how did you stumble into becoming a coach? And I was like, listen, I did not stumble into this. in so many ways, and I'll give you some background, but in so many ways, I feel like I was very much called to this as like a calling, as well as it was like an empowered choice to step into this like role. So I admire so many people that are entering into this space. But I always come back to my why, and my why is very much like, this is my mission. This is my dharma. So to kind of like rewind, I guess, and like go back in time. And I shared recently on Instagram, like kind of my path and how it was like certainly not linear getting here.
Yeah.
You might have seen that.
I love that. Yeah.
I like, I don't know if you're familiar with like the nodes in astrology, like the South Node and the North Node.
I don't think so.
Okay, look into it. It's really, really interesting. And it's something that's not talked about so often. And the North and South nodes are essentially, once you know your South Node, then it's just the opposite sign. So my South Node was in Gemini, and my North Node is the opposite of Gemini, which is Sagittarius. So our South nodes are typically our past life, are kind of like connected to our past lives or our early life. And then our North node is connected to what we're stepping into, like what our dharma is, what our calling is. Yeah, it's really cool. I can't wait to look into it. Yeah. You definitely should. We can even look at yours like in a little bit if you want.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It's super interesting. And typically there's like generations that are in the same, well, what I've seen is generations can be within the same South and North node. But my South node was in Gemini, and I looked into it, and it had to do with like being a teacher, like teaching one-on-one to small groups of people, kind of like working in communities. And then the North Node Sagittarius is all about like traveling, like making your message bigger and sharing it with like a wider community, with like the world at large, and like going to speaking events and running the retreats and doing workshops, and like really being a spotlight for the work that you're stepping into. And it's so funny because like the Gemini South Node is connected to like being almost like a teacher, like working at a school, like you're like working within like a certain confine to, or the amount of people that you work with. And then Sag would be like a lot of people, like really reaching out to the masses. In my whole early life, I was led to becoming a teacher, and everything I did was in that realm. Like I was a dance teacher. I went to school to become a teacher. And over the course of that journey and my own like kind of mental health journey, did I start to kind of sway away from that. And it was really these like nudges that wasn't the path for me. So when I was in high school, grew up, I had a really happy childhood, and I'll start there. Like my family's incredible. I grew up with like really loving parents, a really loving like early childhood. And in high school, I had an experience where I dealt with like death of my grandfather, and this was like the closest death to me at the time for me to experience. I think I was like 14, and it hit me really, really hard. And I started getting these like, um, what I now know is like almost spiritual pings,
Mm.
but they really scared me because it was like this internal knowing, this like clairvoyance that something was wrong or something, like it was like energy beyond me. And I
Yeah.
essentially sensed the death of my grandfather before he passed.
Mm.
And it terrified me, and it led me down the path to really to experiencing debilitating obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, which is actually very common for people with clairvoyance or psychic abilities. So I've learned over time.
Mm.
Um, and that whole journey really kind of like really shifted me. I had to sit with my shadow. I had to sit with like really dark parts of myself and like the world. I experienced like really awful anxiety and depression, and yeah, I like was in like those I was in like those dark places, and I
Wow.
masked it with like a really big smile and just like continuing to show up, but it was really hurting me. And I felt so disconnected from my body. Like I, at the time, and this was like essentially all throughout high school, um, I was like, I had a mask of like, I can do this, I have it all together. But behind the mask, I was so lost, so confused, so disassociated. So I didn't have like I didn't have any close friends. I just didn't feel like I belonged. But again, like I masked it really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, I didn't when I saw pictures of myself, I like didn't, and the story is so long, I could go on and on about it, but essentially I didn't recognize the girl in the photos. I was like, that's
Yeah.
not me. Like I'm more than this. Like I'm meant for more. I'm meant for deeper connection. I'm meant to have like really great girlfriends. I'm meant to have like a loving like boyfriend or loving partner. I'm meant to be like really excited and blissed out about life, but I'm just like not. I was in a dark place.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so anyways, I because of that, I didn't really have the capacity to make big decisions for myself because I was so lost in that disassociation.
Mm-hmm.
So I had family and friends and my parents really like pushing me to go into teaching. So of course I went into a university program that was for teaching. And over the course of this, it was like the summer between high school and university when I just realized that like I was just fed up. And this is what happens to most people is you kind of reach that tipping point where you're in like the dark night of the soul for such a long period of time that you're just like, I am fed up with this. I'm done. I will do anything. I'm
Yeah.
ready. Like you almost get a new surge of energy, like a phoenix coming out of the fire, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you're like, I'll do anything right now to shift this. And so I made the decision in between high school and university to really like connect back to my body. I started practicing, and this was like years ago before it was ever popular. It was like only hippies were doing breath work and
Yeah.
meditation, you know. Um, and so I got into yoga, breath work, meditation, and I actually started studying neurolinguistic programming at that time. Um, and started learning how to rewire the brain because that's the only there's a few ways in which you can really heal from OCD. And
Mhm.
I didn't want to do it the medical way. I didn't want to go, I was like forced to go see a doctor. And I was like, I'm not doing it this way. I want to do it my way. I want to do this holistically. Like,
Yeah.
and like for a 17-year-old to think that way, I'm like still floored.
Yeah, that's pretty
um,
empowering. Yeah.
yeah. I didn't have any support whatsoever. I really kept it hidden, which was also like not healthy, but made me a really strong individual when it came to my mental health. And I just made the decision that I was going to study how to recover from this holistically. And I started literally rewiring my subconscious mind and my physical body that was connected to these patterns of conditioning through the different habits that you would do with OCD. And over time, things started to shift. And I started like, I just saw the benefits and the impact of all that internal work over the course of my university years. And I ended up graduating at the top of my class and started dating, and I
Oh.
had really great friends, and I had all these jobs. And it was just like had a lot of abundance in my life at that time. But of course, there's layers to
Yeah.
personal growth and to your evolution as like a human being. And I was like 22, 23, had graduated and was now hadn't fully I basically made the decision I wasn't going to go into teaching. Taught abroad, came back, and I was like, there's a ceiling to teaching, and I'm being called to do more than that right now. Like, I don't feel comfortable going into a profession that's going to keep me in a box. And so I started exploring other paths. And over the course of, I'd say, like 5-6 years, I just slowly dove into the personal development world as I had like multiple jobs. And then one day, a couple of years ago, I just kept getting really strong pings to do this and was getting called to coach more and more and run workshops. And I was doing this all for free for so long. And then when COVID struck and I lost my corporate job, I was working corporate marketing. I took it as a call to like really take this calling on full time and make it my mission and make it my profession. And yeah, I've been going all in for the past like year and a half now, and it feels so good.
Wow. Congrats. Like, first of all, thank you for sharing your story. And I feel really like proud of you for being able to pull yourself out of such a difficult time. That's not easy, especially when you're so young, you know? That's very empowering and very cool to hear. And you were in college. In college, I was like, duh.
I know.
About self-development at all in college. What resources were you leaning on during that time? How did your mind kind of open up to like neurolinguistics? It's like, still don't know much about it. Like, yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's funny you asked that because I like really approached it the same way I would approach writing like a research paper for school. So I was looking up like papers and studies on obsessive compulsive disorder and like rewiring the brain. And I just like kept finding these papers, and I literally was like studying them on my spare time. I'm also like a nerd for all this stuff. And so I should have known early on that this was going to be like my path. But
yeah, it was like totally lighting you up, huh?
Totally. I always find, and like it's something that I get my clients to think about, like when they want to change career paths, to really look at like where are you spending your time, like what do you get kind of like jazzed up about, like what lights you up in maybe your current role, but also where do you spend your spare time, because that's your choice in terms of where you're spending your time and where you're exerting your energy. And so I realized that for me, for a long time, I just kind of did that for fun. I thought it was really fascinating, but I was legit reading research papers and printing them off and like highlighting them.
Love it. I love that. What's funny is I actually was on kind of the same trajectory a little bit. I went to school to teach, and then I had a theater minor. And so like I always knew I wanted to be an actress, and I knew that I loved talking to people and like public speaking and stuff. But yeah, I decided I didn't want to be a teacher either. I teach a little bit now, but it's theater, which I was going to school to teach like elementary school, which I think is the same as you, right?
Similar. Yeah.
So yeah, now I decided that that's not right, but teaching theater still lights me up because I love playing. Like I love playing around. I love playing game, you know, so that's like fun to me. But that's funny that it's kind of similar.
That is interesting. I don't know about you, but for me, I was taught that was a really safe path.
Yeah.
And if you have if you're saying like, I find coaching is very much similar to teaching.
Yeah.
In many ways. And same with like what you're doing, especially like coaching actors. And so if you had any like inkling or any skill set in that capacity. I'm sure you probably grew up the same way I did, where my parents were like, you should go into teaching, because
Yeah.
they almost like see that as like a really safe route.
Yeah. You
But
know what's funny is I think in general we like to do that, like see that a child is good at like a sport and be like, you should be a player, or
yeah,
see a child's good at, and I like try to catch myself with doing that because it's a compliment. We mean it as a compliment, but sometimes it's just like projecting some stuff.
exactly.
So yeah, I try to be conscious
Exactly.
of that, but yeah, I definitely got the you should be a teacher a lot, like a lot from my family.
I
And
know.
I mean, yeah.
It is, you're totally right. It is a projection too of their own fears and limitations and
Mhm.
belief system. Because like for like my parents like aren't familiar with like shadow work
Uh-huh.
or things like that. But
Same.
so I'm not sure they would admit this, but there are um they have a slight scarcity mindset, or is a lot of people I think born in a certain demographic, right? Or born at a
Hmm.
certain time. Like my dad was an immigrant from Italy. And so, of
Yeah.
course, he's going to have a bit of a scarcity mindset. And of course, he's going to want me to have a safe job,
Hmm.
because it gives, it would offer me a type of security, financial security, and benefits that he might not have had access to.
Yeah.
So I do always look at the conditioning and the things that we were told as also just the projections of our parents, our grandparents, our communities, our teachers.
Yeah. Yeah. And all their programming. I remember my mom told me one time, like, she hadn't really thought past like college. Like, she just like really wanted her kids to like graduate high school and go to college. Like that was like the big thing.
Yeah.
And for her time it made sense. Like no one really had gone to college, but they hadn't thought about like the other possibilities. And so it's just like,
Totally.
I mean, it's really liberating to like think that, and it's a privilege to think like my family line has come this far where I can think about things that are bigger than that.
Yeah.
So in that way it's totally cool. But yeah, my mom definitely doesn't know what shadow work is. Actually, the other day she just asked me like, hey, what's breath work? And I was like, yeah, like let me teach you
You're like,
about this.
yes.
Let's talk about this. So yeah, it's just cool that we can kind of pass some knowledge back to them in that way.
Yeah. And like heal lineages, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like our knowledge, our willingness to step into the fire is really also a healing opportunity for them, and healing future, or yeah, healing ourselves also offer a spectacular opportunity for the following generations to come,
Yes.
to be to just reach new heights, reach new potential.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
really
things we
beautiful.
can't even like imagine yet. Yeah,
Yeah.
very
Yeah,
cool.
exactly.
I love that. It's so cool to think about. Let's get into shadow work and what is our shadow
Mm.
side and what does shadow work mean? Yeah.
Mm. I As we were like gearing up for this conversation, I was like, this is my favorite thing to talk about, because it is like known to be some of like the hardest work, but I find obviously the juiciest, and the most impactful. And when I look at shadow work and how I approach it with clients, it's like questioning what we know to be true,
Mhm.
questioning what we take energetically as like an of course in our life, questioning and looking at our deep attachments to things. Attachments meaning expectations, attachments meaning limitations, attachments meaning meanings to belief systems, and just kind of sitting with like the parts of our, like just looking at yourself as a beautiful human who um, isn't perfect.
Yeah.
We all want to be special, and we are all unique and very special, but you're also like, there's parts of you that are perfectly imperfect. And it's really like sitting with those parts and just like being with them, even if like it might hurt for a moment. Even if you're going to come across some uncomfortable truths, whether it be with yourself or how you grew up or your parents or your community or whatever it is. And so if I were to explain shadow work in the most simplest way, it's like imagining you're walking in a straight line and you have a flashlight in your hand and you just turn around and there's like a dark cave behind you and you're just like looking at it with this flashlight. And you're like taking your time walking through the dark cave and it's kind of scary, but you have the flashlight with you and you're just like digging into the crevices of your past, of the conditioning that makes up who you are. And dark caves are kind of scary. And a lot of shadow work can lead us to like dark nights of the soul, because we're like, oh my God, who am I? Like I'm questioning myself and who I am and my belief system and all of that. And so, a long-winded answer to say that's what I believe shadow work truly is.
Yeah, that's great. I think that was a great explanation, because I think sometimes people hear shadow work and think it's like some like really dark witchy thing. They don't understand. It's just like digging into yourself, digging deeper, asking yourself harder questions. So yeah, that was a great explanation. How can someone like spot their shadow? How can someone start finding those answers or digging into their past? Like, because I think I struggle with that sometimes. Like, I think sometimes there's like blocks keeping me from seeing maybe the full like truths of myself, maybe.
Yeah. What a great question. No, it really is, because I think a lot of people tend to shy away from this work because there's the voice within us, the voice of the ego, that is not to be killed off, but is there to work with. And the ego can speak to us in a really rude manner, can scare us off, can say some really nasty things that, of course, is going to deter us from any sort of change. Because when you're doing shadow work, you're looking at truths that once you are aware of them, things will change. Or like once you are aware, like there's oh my gosh, what's that saying? To be ignorant is to like be in bliss. Blissful ignorance.
Yeah, ignorance is bliss.
Ignorance is bliss. Yes, exactly. And that's kind of how I look at shadow work. It's like once you go in, like you can't really turn back around. Like you'll always kind of know it's there. And so it's a lot of it is like really sitting with the ego. And so one thing that I found to really work is, and this takes a lot of courage, and you have to be really okay with heavy emotions. So not everyone is, there's going to be people who are really sensitive to extreme emotions. And so I would just say for those individuals to work with a mentor or a coach, like almost like beside you or on standby, because what can come up can be really dense and heavy. But if you're feeling really confident and comfortable in yourself to really go there, find a place where there's like no distractions and connect with your ego. And I like to do this practice where, and I've done it several times in my life, where I just say like, what do you need me to know? What are you afraid of? Or what am I afraid of happening? Or like, what would be the worst case scenario? And like, really go there, like write down your fears, like all of them, write down the worst case scenarios you could ever think about, like get it out of your system. Because if it's in there, it's like stuck in the somatic body. And you have to go through the process of like releasing and purging that, but also like bringing it up to the surface. So there's tons of modalities in which you can do this, a ton of different like therapies that support this type of work. But a really simple way is just like writing it all down. When it's coming up, you're definitely going to feel it in the body. Like anytime I've done this, I've always like cried. And once you're finished, you can say like, am I complete with this? Yes. Is there anything else you need me to know? okay, great. And you say, thank you for bringing this up in me. And I always look at the ego as like the child within us who
Mhm.
is just like, has created all these like rules and limitations to keep us safe. And so that is what like a lot of the shadow work is like keeping us in these like safe kind of boundaries.
Mhm.
And I always thank it for what it's done. Thank you for getting me here. Thank you for keeping me safe. Thank you for protecting me. But I'm like strong and capable of handling what comes my way on my own. I'm ready to release and let you go. And from there, I typically like rip the paper up, or burn it, set an intention. I'll do like a primal scream. And I like to do this obviously outside where I can,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then like get into nature, really connect back into the earth. Um, but that's like a huge way to release kind of any stagnant energy that's kind of like stuck in the body. Um, Another thing that I get my clients to do,
Yeah, I was gonna
eh,
ask.
yeah, this is like a part of the process, and I call it like we basically go into surgery, into
Okay.
like spiritual somatic body surgery. Um, and one exercise that I know they all hate, but it's so good, is to identify, yeah, is to identify your top 10 insecurities.
Mm.
So I get them to write it out on a single piece of paper and then speak them out loud. And then with each one, get them to ask themselves, like, where did this come from? When was the first time you experienced this insecurity? And how long have you been hanging onto it? And that exercise itself can lead to a lot of healing. Um, a lot of this work is like identifying what it is, and then like almost like playing the rewind game of being like, okay, when did you first experience that? How old were you? What was that memory like? And working from
Yeah,
there.
and reworking that.
Mhm.
Wow, I can't wait to watch this back and like do all these things.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Definitely take notes and do this yourself.
yeah, of course. Oh my gosh, I'm very excited. Thank you for sharing that. I would love to hear like some breakthroughs that you guys have experienced, if you don't mind sharing that kind of stuff. But if you do, it's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, totally. Oh my gosh, there's so many. I'll try to give you like one example. Actually, recently I did an intensive with one of my clients. So we had a 3-hour intensive where we just went deep. We literally just like, I call it doing surgery because that's how it feels. Like we're really, really like just kind of, and it's not surgery I'm doing on them. It's like surgery they're doing themselves. All I'm doing is prompting them
Mhm.
into a deeper awakening, and a deeper knowing of themselves.
Yeah.
One really like quick, and this is something I wanted to bring up with you too, is one really quick kind of breakthrough one of my clients had was that she realized that her spending habits were filling a void within her, a void of like love and affection and approval from her father.
Mhm.
And controlling, and this is what a lot of people do, is like um they'll create a habit of controlling their anything at all, controlling their thoughts, their their just their
Behaviors.
practices, behaviors,
Mhm.
spending habits. And so she was controlling she could spend her money on to fill the void of approval from her own father.
Mhm.
And this is like some deep work that I do with a lot of my clients, is exploring like what their human needs are, and where they are not receiving those.
Mhm.
Um, and so we are, as humans, we all seek security, approval, and control.
Mhm.
And when we are not getting one of those things, when we are not receiving approval, then we either like try to control the situation or try to gain approval from people by people pleasing, by presenting ourselves a certain way, by by like trying to gain approval in any way we think possible. by trying to create a sense of security by being like anxiously attached to things, right?
Yeah.
And so it was a major, major breakthrough for her. She was like, oh my gosh. And so now she looks at spending entirely differently. Like she was spending so much money. Like I think a lot of people are too, even during the pandemic. They're like,
Yeah.
spending money on like pointless things and
Yeah.
like
Yeah. I agree completely.
like sweatsuits and I don't know, like anything, a lot of clothes. Like I think women have a bigger issue with this, where they spend a ton of money on like the clothes they purchase to create an appearance or to create a facade that will gain approval from people in their life. But it's like, where were you not gaining approval or in your early life? Like, where did that
Yeah.
need to control your presentation to the outside world come from, you know?
Yes. I'm so excited I'm having this conversation because I try to explain these things sometimes, but it doesn't come out as well as it's coming out from you. So I'm very excited to have this.
Cool. Love that.
What are some of your favorite resources as far as shadow work goes? Even like Instagram that you follow or books that you enjoy? Yeah.
Oh, yes. I always forget the name of this book. Well, my coach actually recommended me to read The Shame That Binds Us. And that's a really, really good one.
You said The Shame.
The Shame That Binds
Okay.
Us. It's written by oh my goodness, John Bradshaw. Yeah, Healing the Shame That Binds You. That's it. I was like, it's off. The other one I really love, that's the very beginning of this book really speaks to like victimhood energy, which is part of the shadow, and that's Life Visioning by Michael Beckwith. And then another one I love, just that speaks to that voice, that inner roommate in your mind, is Untethered Soul. And that one's just like a classic.
Oh yeah.
I recommend that to so many people. There's a ton, there's like a ton of books that Healing the Shame That Binds You is probably the deepest one for like shadow work and shame. There's a lot of resources out there. There's a ton of podcasts. What I will say is that if you're interested in this kind of work, I've actually been finding it more beneficial to listen to audiobooks or read books from like masters in this space instead of listening to a ton of podcasts about it, because I find podcasts are just kind of like regurgitating like information that they get from these books anyways, and to go right to the source can be really powerful. And then second is I actually read most of the books that I ever absorb twice to 3 times to yearly.
Yeah.
Reason being is like there's going to be, you read it the first time and there's going to be like a lot that comes at you and you're going to be questioning a lot of things. And like the second time you read it, you're going to learn something new. And I find that we don't spend enough time in the integration process. And for anyone that's listening and like for yourself, and I remind myself of this all the time too, if you are really committed to a shift, if you're really committed to changing, to really like taking your shadow, like being with it and like shifting it into something, or like using it as motivation to move forward, like pick one of these resources and dive deep into it and integrate it. That's when you're going to see the deepest change. I just had to add that in.
Yeah. No, that was great. Let's start talking about manifestation.
Oh yeah, let's shift it. Let's go into the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Although shadow work's really fun, but
yeah. I mean, I think shadow work leads into manifestation, right? Like you can't have one without the other kind of thing. So we got to get through both.
You got to get through both.
Yeah. Can you break down what conscious manifestation is? Because obviously we're always manifesting things, whether we know it or not, right? So let's like break down conscious manifestation.
Oh, this is so good. Okay. So I just got off a call with my assistant and she was like, she basically when was this? Like 5 months ago, came to me and she goes, she has a full-time job and she's my assistant on the side.
Mm.
And she was like, I want to make X amount of dollars like this year. This is like my goal. This is how much I want to bring in financially. And I was like, epic. I was like, okay, great. Because it's not our job to control the how, because how could we ever do that? There are literally trillions of different ways things can happen. It's not our job to control the how. However, it is our job. It's our responsibility. It's in our power. It's more so in our power to be like crystal clear on the why and the what. So why is it that I want, why is it that I want 100K? What is that going to offer me? What would that life look like? And get clear on like, what could this offer me? What is the energy of that much money? And so I asked her to do that. I said, what would this actually offer you? Like, what kind of energy would you be stepping into? Doesn't mean you have to work harder, but it might mean like doing, potentially getting a new job or like showing up in a new way energetically.
Mm-hmm.
So I share with her, like, get clear on what is it that you want. If it's going to be through a job, what does this job look like, feel like? What does your day-to-day look like? Who are you interacting with? What is your relationship with your colleagues look like and feel like? How do you wake up in the morning? What's your energy feel like when you are in this position, you know? So she did that work. And then over the course of the last few weeks, she's really been through it, like just high stress in a good way, like a lot of good stress, but it was stressful, where she had an offering come in from this one company and she was about to move through with it, but something wasn't right. And at the exact same time, her old company was like, well, match that, what they're going to offer you. And it was like so stressful because there's all these things to think about in the process. And then she ended up hitting her number, her
Yes.
goal number that she wanted to manifest well in her current job. And she was like, Kelly, I would have never known how this was going to happen. I was like, exactly.
Wow.
It's not your job. It is literally not your job because you don't know. You couldn't even script this. If I was to tell you this is how it's going to happen, you'd be like, no way.
Yeah.
And like, also she was like, I need to be careful what I manifest because that was really stressful and I didn't realize what it was going to do to me. And so with conscious manifestation, I think we have to be very aware, be crystal clear on what is it that you desire and your why and what it's going to offer you. And also knowing that we need it to create the space for it to come in. There might, and this is what people don't talk about, is that there is a clearing process, a purging process. What no longer serves you sometimes gets like released during the process of manifestation because there's just not enough room to have both those things in the space. I'm speaking kind of like
energetically,
energetically right now. So if you're having a hard time understanding this, I'm sorry, but like sometimes we can't have if we're calling something in, something does have to be let go. So like we'll make it really clear. So let's say you're like dating around and you're going on a bunch of dates with people and you're talking to multiple people, but you really desire a partner. You really desire one core like being in your space. Like you really want to call in one person that's going to be like your person. What it actually means and what you have to do is, number one, make space in your life for them to come in. And so that might actually mean like giving yourself, like I used to when I was like dating, I would put date nights. I was single and I would put date nights in my calendar on like Tuesdays and Thursdays or like Wednesdays and Fridays, even though I didn't have a date, even though I didn't have a boyfriend. And I would always have it in my calendar. So if I were to be asked out on a date or if that were to happen, I'd be like, yes, I'm available Wednesday and Friday from this time to this time. And like, I was basically communicating to the universe, like, hey, I'm available for this.
Yeah.
I made space for it. And so I don't think enough people are conscious of what needs to happen in order to call something in. We need to release, we need to make space. It might also mean that the like 10 guys that you're speaking to need to be let go of.
Yeah.
Are they serving you right now? Are they offering what you need? No. Are you, if you're okay with having them in your life, sure, that's great. But if someone comes in and they're like, let's say your perfect partner comes in and they want a relationship with you, that means like you're gonna have to release those men at the end of the day anyway.
Mhm.
And so like committing and communicating with the universe that you're already creating space for that thing to come through is really powerful and understated.
Yeah. Ooh, that was like good explanation. You're doing great, honey. You're doing great.
This is like my jam. I can go on and on about this
Yeah.
stuff.
The way I think about it is like we kind of have like a cup full of our energy, right? And if our energy is going into too many of the wrong places, then we won't have enough for it to go into the places that we want it to. So like
Totally. Mm-hmm.
filling up your cup, emptying out your cup. But yeah. What are some of your favorite manifestation techniques?
I love this. And this is actually a good segue from what we just spoke about. So I am a big proponent of like being in the present, but also being excited and connected to the future and to like what I'm creating, the manifestation of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you're familiar with Joe Dispenza's work, but
A little bit.
he speaks about like how most people wake up in the morning and their thoughts and emotions and feelings and all of their energy tend to go back on the feelings and stories of yesterday's or the yesterday's past instead of energetically pouring into, like you said, pouring into the future or into future possibilities, into the present moment, into the day ahead. And so one of my most favorite manifestation practices is really just like daily visualization. I try. I know a lot of people on like New Year's do this kind of work. They get clear on what they want. And then like the next New Year's, they'll like do it again. I actually try to do this work if monthly, like I'll get really clear on my goals and what I want to create. I'll do a really big deep dive, like quarterly, like each season. But every single day I try to connect with that energy. I do Dr. Joe Dispenza's morning meditation as often as I can. And what that allows me to do, I do it first thing in the morning. So instead of like waking up and thinking about yesterday's problems and thinking about my limitations and stories and conditioning from the past, I go, what can like project me forward? How can I be more present in this moment to make my manifestations come to life right now? How can I step into the energy of what I am creating today, right now? So that's like my most favorite because it's most powerful way.
Yeah. I think that's
because
great.
It's like getting clear and then stepping into the energy of the person you need to become to call that in.
I want to ask you, when you're visualizing things, how does it look in your mind?
Oh, well, I'm a very visual person. So like, I don't know about you. When I meditate, I definitely see images.
I've feel like a very clear image, like sometimes it's not something that I don't visualize every time very clearly.
I know. I want to look deeper into this on like what makes people see, makes them more like visual meditators than others. It's something that's always just kind of come naturally to me, but I'll literally see images. Like, I'll see myself. So I won't like see like deep detailed features of like the face, although sometimes I will, but I'll definitely see like scenes, or I'll see certain people, or I feel certain energies. I don't always see faces, but I can feel the energies of certain people.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I feel like, is that how your dreams are too? Are they similar? Yeah.
Very similar, very visual dreams where I like feel the energy of the things, but I don't necessarily see, like, it's almost like blank faces.
Yeah. See, I have really clear dreams and really clear faces. It's literally like, I don't like waking life. Like, it's like very normal. but I can never really see myself. It's like I don't really remember what I look like. So that's the
Oh,
only thing.
yeah.
But I
So
like
that's
to.
like,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, that's like something you can practice. So
Yeah.
before you go to bed, you can ask to have more vivid dreams and to
Mhm.
like actually, if you can even in your dream, it's really hard and it does take practice over several sleeps. But if you start to like have your hands in front of you and you start to
Mhm.
visualize your hands, that's when you can start connecting to your body and like
Yeah.
seeing yourself.
That's
It's
what I've
one little
I've
way.
heard that too. Yeah, to like look at your hands during the day a lot and then try to start doing it in your dreams. I have to try that out. I had such a weird dream last night, which this is like off
Tell us.
topic, but yeah. But so basically it was I'm always in a high school. I don't know what's my deal with being in high schools, but I'm always like in
Mm.
school, either in college or in high school. And
Mhm.
I guess it's just something that's always on my mind. I feel like I'm gonna miss a class or something. Um, and so I walked
Interesting.
into this room. I know that's a source of my anxiety is missing prom and missing a class. Um,
Mm.
but I walked into this room and it was like a meeting, and it was all like older people, and they were sitting in a circle, and everyone was just looking at me and then like closed their eyes and put their finger on their nose.
Oh, and like the last person to have their finger on their nose.
It was kind of like that game, but it
Yeah.
wasn't. It was also like something like kind of scary to me. Like I was like, no, don't do this
Oh.
again. That's literally what I thought. I was like, not this again. But I didn't know what it meant. And I like woke up and I was like, what the heck is that dream? Um,
So
but yeah,
interesting.
who
Maybe
knows?
it's like there's something right under your nose.
Maybe, maybe. I always think for some reason, and I don't know, this started happening like a year ago, where I would just like connect this. There's actually a science to this. I have no idea. I haven't studied it or anything, but like certain hand movements or like gestures like have been meaning things to me in my mind. And
Mm-hmm.
so like the nose is always like I know, and I don't know, I literally have no idea where this came from. It's just something that one day that's what I started thinking in my head when people do that. So like that's what I was thinking, but I'm like, I don't know what I know. So
Is there something that we're off track, but that is so okay because this is the best off track conversation. Is there something that you are currently contemplating, like a decision you're making, or
I guess the biggest decision right now is like what I want to do. Like
Mm,
which I know what I want to do. I know for sure what I want to do. Um but
yeah.
yeah. um yeah, I guess there we go. I guess we just saw that.
As I just when you were sharing that, I just got a download and I had to
Yes.
ask that question because there was, as you shared, you're like that symbol to you represents like I know, and it's almost like these individuals who are like considered wise, right? They're
Mhm.
like older, they maybe like look like they're more put together, and it's almost this it could be like a version of yourself that is like that wise
Mhm.
leader, that the wise inner knowing within you saying like, oh, I'm getting chills, you know exactly what you need to do. Lean into like what feels good. What do you actually want? Not what anyone else thinks, like what they want for you, but what do you want? And you are the only one that knows. And like when it comes to like choosing these like paths, and we think that they're these like big bold steps, and sometimes they are,
Mhm.
they really do take small baby steps, to like
Mhm.
move the needle forward. And so, um, in your case, it's like, what do I know to be true right now? What can I step into right now today? And that's just going to lead you to the next step and the next step and the next step. And then all of a sudden you're going to be like, whoa, that was a big, bold move. But it was like a progression of like lots of baby bold moves.
Yes. I love that. Actually, I'm happy we went there because um I think a lot of people need to hear that. And I don't know if it was your podcast that I was listening to this on or if it was just a thought I had. Could have been
Mhm.
both. But the way I think about it is And it really could have been from your podcast, but this is also the way I think about it too. But our desires are part of our uniqueness, and that they're there for a reason. Like it's part of the design,
Yeah.
so to follow those and lead with those. And it's funny because younger I felt like that was so easy, like moving across the country or like starting acting and I still think it's an easy thing to do, but I think sometimes I get a little caught up in like, oh, well, it's time to get serious, sometimes that like little like fear in the back of my mind, the ego maybe is telling me like, no, you gotta get serious, it's time to grow up, like you gotta so yes, I think that I'm happy we went there. Thanks
Me too. No, that was beautiful. And thank you for sharing that dream that led to
Yeah.
such a beautiful truth. And like, it is interesting. I think like the power truly, if you're going to be like a really powerful manifester, is like how unattached you can become. How clear can you get, and how unattached to the outcome and to the how can you become. Yeah, Aaron Doughty, he has like really great like mini kind of trainings on his Instagram. So if anyone's like interested in like learning more about that like clarity and non-attachment, I definitely say go check out his stuff. Because like to have true, if we combine manifestation and shadow work, right? It's like if we are able to become unattached but truly deeply connected to what we desire, which is always our destiny, right? What we desire and what we want is always is just another way of saying connecting to our destiny, right? If we are really connected to that, if we are like, my truth is this, I desire this, and I know it to be true, I know it to be destiny, and I am unattached to the how, and I am unattached to all of these ways of being that are keeping me so controlled, and I'm unattached to how I present myself to the world. I'm unattached to having to control situations, all of these things. Then you have true personal freedom. And from that space, you can like manifest on the quantum level. Because if I were to say, hey, I want to manifest a brand new house, and I'm open to all possibilities of making it happen. I just want it to be fun. I want it to be fun and magical. And then I'm just like unattached to it. Of course, shit is going to come up from my shadow. Shit is going to come up stopping me or like limiting me from allowing myself to have that and to manifest it fully. So the work then becomes, if you have true personal freedom, if you're like, I'm open to all possibilities, like I'm open to any which way this could happen, and you're just like kind of playing in that space, you really you are playing, and you're like playing, it's very playful energy. Then things can manifest a lot quicker because you're just like more of an open, you have like an open portal for it,
Yeah, I think when we're talking about being like an energetic match while you're manifesting, I think that when you have that energy of like, I'm letting go, I'm trusting, I'm open to receiving this, when it's a different energy compared to, oh, I'm worried, like, am I going to get this? Like, you start putting that energy on the thing that you're trying to manifest versus the energy of like, I trust, like, I'm open to this, I'm ready to receive this. It's like, it's shutting it down with like, with your own negative energy kind of. So by letting it go, you can kind of release that and allow it to come.
Totally.
What are some of your favorite manifestation resources?
Oh, that's a good one. I really love the like Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations. You can purchase them on his website. You can find them on YouTube, but I would encourage you to support his work and actually buy them. And then there's no commercials in between your meditation,
which is nice.
Which is very nice. I love that. I did a bunch of coursework early on my path with Manifestation Babe, and she's a really good introductory to a lot of this work, and her content's really fun and playful. And so for anyone who's just kind of starting off on this journey, that's another great place to go. I mean, I share a lot of stuff too, so
Yeah.
come follow
Yes.
me, and
And
you'll
yeah,
learn a little more.
yeah, and you have programs too, right? That help
Mhm.
with, I'm not sure on your specific programs, but you can give us a breakdown.
Yeah, sure. I mean, when I work with clients one-on-one,
Mhm.
like the number one thing that we cover is doing a ton of the shadow work to allow you to call in that vision, to
Mhm.
allow you to step into um, essentially like working with a coach, but like working with me in the container that I create for clients is truly to collapse time
Mhm.
so we can make those things happen on a quantum level. Um, so yeah, so of course, like we'll dive really deep into lots of different kind of like manifestation techniques, a lot of inner child work, all that stuff. It's just to clear the space to make things happen um, a lot more quickly for you.
Mhm.
And like I always say, like working with a mentor or coach, you want someone who's going to kind of like call you out and see your blind spots and like work with you. They're not going to be
Mhm.
like, I'm no one's guru. I'm not going to do the work for you, but I
Yeah.
am there to like be like, we're gonna go through this fire, we're gonna do it
Mhm.
together. And like we do that in order to, it's like helping you get past your own limitations, helping you stop procrastinating on those limitations that are stopping you from living life the way you really desire to and the way you're destined to. um Another way people can work with me, I do every few months. I run immersive workshops. So I'm doing one in a few weeks on April 18th. And that one's going to be all about mastering your magnetism, which is essentially
Mm.
manifestation and becoming the energy match to what you desire, and cultivating your vision, which is, of course, getting clear on what it is you desire and want to call in. So that's going to be really, really juicy and like super interactive and engaging, and nothing I've ever done before. So that's a really great place to start.
That sounds really good. I will be out of town that day, but I have to take one of your programs. Are they all online? Yeah.
They're all online.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice.
Because of the pandemic, everything's kind
The
of
pandemic.
virtual
I love
these
that.
virtual these days.
Yes. Um, oh, okay, hold on. I wanted to ask you something. I think I want you to break down what you meant when you say on a quantum level.
Oh,
I
yes,
want to get into
quantum
that
manifestation.
conversation. Yeah.
Yes, very juicy. I mean, like quantum physics is another thing that I'm like really passionate about and continue to learn more about every single day. Um,
I try my best to. Some of it just blows my mind, though.
it's so cool. It's so fucking cool. Like everything's energy.
Mhm.
And essentially when I speak about becoming an energetic match too, that's when you start playing in the quantum realms.
Mhm.
Um, that's when you start playing in, like, I don't know if you're familiar with Abraham Hicks, which is also another great resource when it comes to manifestation and whatnot.
Uh-huh.
But it's like, okay, so I'm sure a lot of people here have read or watched The Secret.
Mhm.
And what's great about that is they speak about like getting clear on what it is you desire, and like feeling into what that is and like energetically becoming a match to it. And then there's like what they don't really speak on, which a lot of people have called out, is like taking inspired action in
Mhm.
terms of what you need to actually do to make it happen. So
Yeah.
you can't just sit on your couch and be like, and write out a list and make a vision board of what you want and just like feel into and be like, oh, that'd be so nice. It's like there's going to be multiple steps you need to take, actions you need to take to make it happen.
Yeah.
And working in the quantum realms is like holding your vibration and the frequency of what it is you desire, and then taking appropriate actions and taking inspired action and taking energetic action that matches that frequency.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's like, that's the good stuff. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I have so many examples on this, but for instance, I wanted to connect with, this is actually a really funny story. I wanted to connect with a specific influencer because I've been following her stuff for so long, and she lives in Toronto as well. And I was listening to a podcast she was on. I was like, oh, I really want to reach out to her because she spoke about something that I'd actually want to support her with. And I was out for a walk, and I see her doing like a little photo shoot, and I was like, no way. Like,
Love
what are
it.
the odds? And the universe like brought her to me, or this is how I always think, it's like everything happens on purpose. Like nothing's an accident. There are no mistakes. And she showed up in my space, and my inspired action would be to go and speak to her and be like, hey, like, what's up? Like, I love your stuff. I would love to chat with you about XYZ. And I didn't do it. And I walked away, and because I just was like, oh, she's like doing her little shoot. Like, I don't want to interrupt. That's rude. But that was my old programming. And so when I walked away, I was like, oh, damn. Like I was given an opportunity, and I just like kind of let it go. So like working in the quantum realms is like looking at those things as opportunities and like saying yes to them and being like, okay, I'm going to do this. And you go do it. And it might open up new portals for you. It might not, but it also probably will. So that's like playing in the quantum space.
I love that. One of my examples of that is actually after college, I just didn't know how to continue acting. But I wanted to. And I was also always really passionate about human trafficking and raising awareness on that. So those are two things like kind of on all of my lists that were like, I want to do this in my life. Like I know this is part of my journey, but I just didn't know how. So I went to a graduation party, and two of my friends were talking about a new human trafficking awareness program that needed actors. And I was just like, what? And not only, it was a whole party. So these two people could have had this conversation anywhere, but they had the conversation right in front of me.
Not a mistake.
And yeah, not at all. And typically I'd be like, I'm not going to invite myself into something that no one's invited me to. But I was like, guys.
Are you a projector?
I'm actually a manifestor generator.
Me too. Yeah, love it. Okay, I just had to ask.
I love that. So people are going to be like, what?
Yeah, but that's a whole other tangent.
Yeah, we can do a whole episode on human design. So I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And what happened then is that one job was not paid for a long time, but then it became one of my biggest like reoccurring acting jobs. And then from that job, I got my two next jobs that were paid without auditioning. So it was like, you don't know how to start? I'll show you how to start. And then just like pa, like, there you go. Now you keep going. So that's like one of my biggest, like, okay, I know, like, but there's so many stories like that too. So yeah, I'm glad we got into that for a little too. I wanted to ask, what do you do kind of just keep yourself vibing high? Like, how do you keep yourself feeling aligned every day? I know you have your mornings. Do you do anything else?
Yes. Well, it's like interesting you asked that, because like I believe we are all such full humans experiencing the full human experience, you know what I mean? Which includes experiencing the full human expression.
Yes.
So I have, because I've sat with the depths of because I've done like a lot of the deep work and continue to, also means I get to experience like really high highs. And I know what that feels like, and I know how to tap into that and what tools and resources I need to do that on like a daily basis. It doesn't mean I don't feel, like I shared even recently, I was like, I think we all aren't recognizing how exhausted we are from everything going on this past year. And that can be really heavy and dense, and like just like allowing yourself to be there and not victimizing yourself in that space, but being like, that's another form of human expression and feeling it, and it's true for me right now. However, on a daily basis, I enjoy, like everyone else, feeling really good and energized and blissful. And so what I tend to do is I try to stay away or be on my phone in the morning. And like I know it's so simple, but it really is like, has been a game changer and continues to be a differentiator, I think, for
Yeah.
myself and for a lot of people who commit to that. Because it's super easy just to roll over and start reacting to the world.
Yeah.
And so I try to create before I consume. I try to create my energy in the mornings before I start consuming anything outside of myself in the outside world. So what my absolute favorite thing to do is like, I'll wake up and I'll like do my meditation practice. And I'll typically like throw my slippers on, put on a face mask. And this is like sounds really luxurious, but like it works for me. And like people are gonna find their own thing. Like, and I
Yes.
also have learned how to do this a little more quickly when I have really busy days, but I still make time for it always, even when I'm traveling. I'll like wake up, put on a face mask, like, you know, like get myself ready. I'll make a coffee. I'll journal, I'll write out like 3 things that are non-negotiables for my day. I'll listen. I love to like study and research in the morning as well. So I'll typically listen to a podcast or an audiobook while I'm getting ready, while I'm stretching. Sometimes I'll do a workout first thing in the morning and then have my coffee. But yeah, I have like some core values for me, and like non-negotiables in my life are play, study, nature, like flexibility,
Yeah.
um, and just like being in my body and being present. So yeah,
Yeah.
that always kind of gets me back to like my juicy spot, my sweet
Yeah.
spot.
I love that. Okay, a question that also came up, and then this is my last question for sure. But a
Mhm.
question that came up for me is you said you feel really high highs, and I want to ask you, how does that feel in your body? That's
Oh my God. Like pure, no one's ever asked me that.
it.
Oh my gosh. It feels like pure elation, very light, very like,
Mm.
imagine if you were to squeal and you're like, "Ah!" It's like being at the top of the squeal. That's how it feels.
Yeah. What's funny is I feel like
Like,
I squeal a lot, and sometimes it's just because I'm feeling like really excited. It's like, okay, I get it.
yeah, yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
Thanks.
I actually like, I try to like normalize that, like just because we are adults, just because we are like adult women, doesn't mean we can't have fun and like squeal and play and feel that elation as we did when we were like 3 or 4. Not every
Hmm.
child feels that way. Depends on how, what their environment's like and their how they're brought up. But you can tap into that whenever you want, even if you're an adult. There's nothing wrong with that. I think we need to
Yeah.
practice that more. And the fact that if anyone's resisting that, it's a whole other thing. So
Right.
yeah, it does feel like that, like, yeah, energy kind of like, it does feel vibrational, like
Hmm.
um and beautiful, very
Yeah.
like, it's just loving energy.
Yeah. I feel like I agree. I was listening to something or reading something that was saying how like the older we get, we kind of start to hold in like certain like moans or sounds or squeals or
Yeah.
and how like when we release those things, it's kind of like, you know, it's also shifting energy within our body. So like yawning or stuff like that, like you should just like let it out because
Yeah.
yeah, it's like what your body needs kind of. So yeah, so thanks for sharing that. Last but not least, where can our listeners find you at?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you for having me. And
Yes,
like,
of
this was
course.
such a fun conversation.
I
Like, we could
agree.
totally go on for hours.
Yeah, I loved
Um,
it.
but if anyone wants to follow me or find my work, my Instagram handle is at the Kelly G, and G is spelled G double E. My website is thekellyg.com. And yeah, and from there we can connect if you're interested in one-on-one coaching. I try to have spots open for that every month. Right now I'm pretty full, but spots opening up in the spring. And of course, I run my workshops every couple months. My next one's on April 18th, if you can make it. But yeah, you can find me there.
Yay! Thank you so much for coming on, Kelly. This was
Oh.
amazing. It was so good. I can't wait to watch it back. I'm so excited.
Oh, thank you.